Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I am your host, Johnny Hellcat. With me today are Minions Sanguine
Good evening, all.
and the Hey Camel.
How's it going?
It's been a day. How about you guys?
I'll let Camel go first.
I agreed. It has been a day. I'm running on about 2 hours of sleep right now.
Okay. So all of us are a little bit sleep deprived, but Camel's
Little-
worse than I am.
A little tired, a little wired. Let's see how this goes.
And for me, I didn't get enough sleep, but other than that, doing grand, just whipping up my dinner for the evening. So I just decided to turn one of my side dishes into kind of like a roast potato salad. Or rather, a pan-fried potato salad. So I'm just getting that all to mix together. Going to be adding a bit of mustard, bit of vinegar to it. And I think I'm going to combine what I was just going to have as a green onion salad go into that. So combine two of my side dishes into one side dish because that would be fucking amazing. And that already adds in the malt vinegar and the mustard that I was to add in. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I pan fried up some potatoes after boiling them, then pan fried up some bacon, or rather, I cooked up some bacon, then boiled potatoes, fried off the potatoes in the bacon and a little bit of extra cooking fat. Toss them into a herbaceous butter. Decided I wanted more sauce to it than just the butter, so threw in some Kewpie mayo, just threw in malt vinegar and mustard. Fried up some green onion whites and a good bit of garlic. Then mix the green onion greens into the malt and mustard solution that I had going. Now that's all just been bunged into the potatoes, and good God, that is fucking fantastic.
Now what's
Then
what's the other word for the green onion greens?
Scallions?
Scallions. That's the word.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking chives, but I didn't think I was right. So
No, chives are the really thin, like oniony grass looking one.
yeah.
Scallions are like midget leeks.
Yeah. Not to be compared to Steve Skives or Steve Chives.
Are
The
you
man
doing
who
that on
is
purpose?
trying
Yes.
to block the
Okay.
internet.
Chives is the guy who blocks half of Twitter. That's exactly it.
Which, last I checked, somehow I am still not blocked by Steve Shives.
Have you had any reaction with him?
I think so. Ages ago. Also, I'm following a bunch of people that he's blocked, so I thought I was bound to get caught by his block bot.
I was just beating Terry to the punch is all.
But yeah, apparently, somehow, I've ended up in the Shives block bot lines.
From a fan.
Which is a fun phrase to say, the Shives block bot blind spot.
I'm not even going to try that 5 times fast.
Yep.
That's
So,
all
yeah.
you need, Sanguine.
With the rest of the dinner that I'm having, it's going to be a lovely bit of salmon that I'm about to sear off here in the same pan that I've cooked everything else. Then some asparagus that I just cooked off in the leftover bacon fat and added bit of cooking oil that I used for the potatoes.
And joining us, Travis Gardner.
Finally, I figured out what I was doing.
What's up,
Hey,
Travis?
Travis, how it goes?
Oh, not much. I kind of halfway fell asleep right before the show again, and then I was getting everything ready, and I'm like, oh, headphones. So I had to go run and find those. So
Oh, good. You're able
Is
to
one of your
dress.
kids microwaving something again, Johnny?
No, that is my fan.
Oh, I heard beeping earlier.
Oh, yeah, my wife could be baking something.
There it goes again.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's baking stuff in the stove.
Ah.
That the wall of the kitchen is like right next to the bedroom, so
Mm.
we're gonna be hearing all that shit.
Fair enough, that shit happens. I mean, you guys hear me cooking all the time, so.
I just want to make sure it was like a smoke detector or something.
Not yet, at least.
Or, maybe like, just a battery draining.
It's the carbon monoxide detector, and he's about to pass out.
I had a customer this week whose they moved into a new house, and their range that they bought and picked up themselves was setting off the carbon monoxide detector.
Oh, fun. So it was an incomplete burn.
Well, yeah, the reason why is that they bought a house in the country that had a propane tank, and they bought the range they had. Well, pretty much every range is natural gas.
Yeah, so wasn't getting to the right temperature to burn it properly.
Well, you get a lot higher pressure on propane.
Yep.
Most of the ranges that go out have adapters that go from natural gas to propane.
Yeah, well, they threw theirs away because they had no idea what it was. So,
Oh, because that's a fucking brilliant idea.
so they ended up calling the fire department out to check everything out, and then they called me out, and I'm like, did you convert it to propane? They're like, why? Well, you're on propane. Well, doesn't it just do it? And I'm like,
Isn't flammable gas flammable gas?
and I kept thinking about like Hank Hill trying to discuss butane versus propane, and
Assassin in the chat, too. Taste the meat, not the heat.
Yep. Though I have to disagree with Hank. You need wood or charcoal for the best taste.
oh, I absolutely agree. I do not like propane grills.
I like propane. As far as timeliness, just because
Yep.
like charcoal has never been a timely thing for me.
Oh yeah, you need to start the fire. You need to let it ash over properly. It is a time-intensive cooking process. Whereas with propane, it is you flick it on, you put down the lid for a few moments, it gets up to heat, you open it up, you're good to go.
It was just the week for just dumbass customers to. I mean, we're having this humongous. Frigidaire has a humongous ice maker recall for their refrigerators, and we kind of got roped into doing that for them locally. So like a Monday, I had to go around the entire, and I had like 20 of these things to put in. And I got really good at putting them in. There's only 2 screws holding it in. One harness connector, and that's it.
Nice.
And One customer smarted off to me. She's like, I need a receipt telling that you will not charge us for this. And I'm like, no. It's like, why not? Well, you're not the customer, actually. It's Frigidaire.
If anyone's going to be giving us a receipt, it'd be them. Or if we're giving anyone a receipt, it would be them.
Yeah. They're the ones that get the receipt, and fuck them if they think that they're getting this service for free.
Oh no, it's about $120 a pop.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. That, yeah, you aren't the customer. You're just the person with the customer's goods. They're paying us to do this. You're benefiting from it. You aren't being charged, and we aren't going to give you anything saying that this is a no-cost thing, because if that gets back to them, they might be able to say, well, you said that this was no cost in this receipt, so why are you charging us in all these instances? Because it fucking costs, you jackasses.
I mean, you're correct, but you're also overthinking my point of it. I was just being a lazy fuck. But,
And in this case, lazy fuck gave you the right answer.
yeah, I mean, usually, a lot of times in the service industry, lazy fuck does end up being the correct answer.
Well, the trick comes down to, you need a bunch of intelligent lazy fucks, and you need a bunch of hard workers. If you get dumb hard workers, that can still work. If you get intelligent hard workers, that can work beautifully. If you get intelligent lazy fucks, works wonderfully. They figure out everything that can be trimmed out of the process and make things move along a bit faster. The people that are goddamn dangerous are the dumb lazy fucks.
There was a chart that I seen that it was talking about, like, it was kind of like the political alignment chart, but it was like stupid, smart, and then two other things. And it said
Probably ambitious versus lazy. Or it's the standard one is there's a military one that is stupid, smart, ambitious, lazy, and then there's stupid, smart, hard-working, lazy is another one.
Well, the thing is that they said that the most dangerous people in the world are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have absolutely no regard for not their well-being as well as anyone else's well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was in college, I always used to say that there were 4 types of people that you would work with on group projects. You would have the person that knows that they're smart and actually is. Those people were good to work with. The people that don't think that they're smart but actually are, those people are a goddamn dream to work with. You have the people that don't think that they're smart.
Oh, that's it. Sorry.
Oh, it is the smart versus know you're smart. Is it that one?
No, it's losses to others, benefits to themselves, benefits to others, losses to themselves, and stupid people are losses to themselves and loses. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Loses to. Somebody else read that. Well,
Losses to others.
It is losses.
Obviously,
It's losses
this isn't working.
But yeah, the 4 people that you would work with in every group project. You'd have people that knew that they were smart and actually were smart, people that knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were intelligent. They were the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet. You had people that thought that they were dumb, were actually dumb, but were willing to do whatever the fuck it was so that they could get a good grade by saying, yep, I was part of this too. And then you had the people that thought that they were dumb but were actually intelligent, and those people were fantastic to work with as well. So the smart knew the smart, beautiful. The smart thought they were dumb, beautiful. The dumb knew they were dumb, beautiful. The dangerous ones were always the thought that they were the smartest person in the group, didn't know a fucking thing, and would always be trying to take over the project.
On the same thing, I'm trying to explain this to Robin the other day, and you know, the common belief is that C students are usually the ones that become bosses and stuff like that. That rise, that
Yep.
have the most innovative ideas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, why is that? Why is it not the A student? Why does it always seem like that? And I'm like, well, you think about it. If you're like, to get an A, either you have to be absolutely excellent, brilliant at everything, or to get an A in college, you follow the syllabus to the letter. You do exactly what the professor expects and everything else.
Very rule-oriented.
If you're C, like if you throw together a 2-week project in an hour and then turn it in and you get a C on it, to me that shows a better level of understanding of the material than somebody that worked on something for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And especially with how shit's being taught now, if you're getting a C, that means that you're smart enough to not completely fail, but the system's pissing you off enough that you don't want to fucking deal with it.
And like in my experience in college, there's a lot of times that I wouldn't even read the material, but on my favorite were essay questions, because on fill in the blank and stuff like that, you had to know it. If you had an essay, you could try to work a bullshit around it. And a lot of times, if you restated the question as a statement, it would be the answer.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I hated essays just because my particular symptomology for my spurgery makes it really difficult to get thoughts out of my head onto paper. I can do out of my head verbally, no problem. I can understand things written down and get them into my head, no problem. Going from my head onto paper, it's just starts short answers. I can get short answers really well. The longer I'm writing, the more it goes from, yeah, this is fairly well thought out, to what insane asylum did this person escape from?
Oh, half the time I didn't even worry about it. I would just keep writing until the timer went off, and then if I knew I'd get something.
And yeah, climbing is what causes a lot of success, but it depends on what field you're talking about, how you end up getting success. Like if you're talking entrepreneurial enterprise, especially in a tech or science, it tends to be the most brilliant bastards that end up popping. They don't have to be the most brilliant in everything that their company does, but they have to be really fucking clever when it comes to it. So that's where you get people like Musk, where Musk is kind of a mad inventor.
Well, but I got into this with somebody else the other day, and they said Elon Musk didn't invent anything. No, he didn't. He just had an idea and like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to find the people that know how to do this, and then we're going to put them all in the room, and I'm going to pay them until they do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he's done a fair bit of work on a lot of the shit that he has thrown himself into. But, yeah, his main thing is that he goes, I really want to do this. And he was able to find all the people that were most likely to be able to allow him to do it. And he would go to them going, this is what I want done. And they would figure out how to do what he was saying, as he was also figuring out how to do what he was saying.
I mean, that's basically how any enterprise is run. The whole Nikola Tesla as Edison debate comes up to mind in this, because, yeah,
Tesla was by far the more clever of the two.
oh, extremely, but
He just didn't have the ability to work with others and to plan shit out that Edison did. So Edison ended up having enough of his inventiveness that he was successful, but then also had the ability to go to other people and go, this is what I want done, rather than him going, I must figure this out.
oh, and also you have to be able to sell an idea too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Edison's thing is that it's like, we're going to sell electricity to everyone, and I'm going to generate it. And you had to come up with stuff to use. You had the light bulb and all his other inventions. No, he did not fully invent everything independently. He had an entire lab full of technicians, scientists, machinists.
Yeah, he almost fully invented none of it.
Yeah. But what he did invent was the whole idea of research and development. Because I think probably him and then maybe BASF in Germany fully invented the idea of an R&D department within a company. Because
I would say he probably refined it more than flat out invented it.
Because I really can't think of like a fully independent R&D within any kind of company before that. Even though there really wasn't that many industrial companies before that either, before Edison and a few others.
There were to a certain degree. Like, there was a lot of foundries that would do a bit of research in how can we make our cannon better and shit like that. But I would say that he definitely more mainstreamed having it be a large component of the company rather than, yeah, we have Bob and 4 people over there dicking around with shit.
I mean, to me that is Edison's really big thing, was that he came up with the idea. I mean, he didn't come up with it, but he mainstreamed the idea of like having a company that had a department within a company to develop new products for the company.
Much larger, much better funded. Research group.
And there were a few things in there. I mean, I think he did have a friendship with Henry Ford, and I think he probably came very close to being part of Ford. But Edison,
I can see a position being offered and him turning one down. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I honestly, he would have been the world's richest person if he just listened to Tesla.
Mm-hmm. But instead, Westinghouse was able to swoop in. And then they were all just completely dwarfed by J.P. Morgan.
And then it all went downhill from there.
Well, it started to when there was I've talked about this on stream before, but there was meant to be a depression before the Great Depression. Everyone saw it happening. Everyone was kind of bracing for impact. A lot of the people looking into it now are going, if it did happen, it would have been worse than the Great Depression. And it came down to J.P. Morgan and like 11 other so-called robber barons buying their way out of the recession. Because what they did was they knew what companies had really good leadership, but just not enough funds. They knew what companies had really shit leadership, but a really amazing company. And they knew what companies were just shit from top to bottom and were better off being scrapped and having to sell off their shit. So what they did was, if a company had really great leadership but just didn't have the money, J.P. Morgan and the others in his group went to them and said, we'll invest in your company. Here's the money. Buy shit from these companies. And it wasn't buy shit from these companies because these are the ones that we're allowing you to buy shit from. No, it was, these companies are going to fail. You need to increase your market share. Buy their shit. They're in the same sector as you. You need these machines. They're going under. Buy their machines. In fact, see if you can hire their staff as well while you're at it. And those companies bought up a good chunk of the companies that were failing shit and employed the employees that were actually worth a shit from those failed companies in their own. So that solved those two problems. And then the companies that had really shit leadership, the robber barons just went, okay, we're fucking buying you. And they bought them. They binged the leadership. They put in a better leadership, including themselves, because they were the ones who bought it. And the economy turned around. It's the reason why the Fed does what the Fed does now. Because they went, well, these ridiculous business-minded people that had their fingers on the pulse of the economy were able to figure out how to avoid a depression and recession. They were able to buy our way out of it. So surely if we get a bunch of absolutely feckless stuffed suits from politics into an office who don't know the first fucking thing about money or the economy. Surely they'll be able to do the same exact thing. And it's never worked.
Yeah.
Because they missed the most important component, which was these insanely brilliant businessmen that knew what made a business grow, what made a business fail, were the ones making the judgments. Not someone who had absolutely no skin in the game, had absolutely no fucking clue how the hell shit worked.
It is any kind of government planning in the economy that doesn't involve people that have a clue what they're doing. I mean, have actually people that know the business that they're going into is going to fail, and that's why we're not going to see a decrease in gas prices dramatically, because the people that know how they could do it is the oil companies, and they're not going to talk to them directly.
It's kind of like there's all the people that keep on bringing up the government, either various state and city governments or the federal government, should impose rent controls. Do you guys know what the result of rent control every time that it's been implemented has been?
It's a shortage.
Massive shortage. The price of housing actually goes up on average. And do you know what group benefits the most from rent control?
Old people.
No. The fantastically wealthy.
Oh.
Because what happens is they tend to be able to buy in at the beginning of it. So their rent is controlled, like New York had it, so that rent control meant from the time that you started renting until you stop renting from them, the price of that unit, so the monthly rent, could not increase by more than 1 to 1.5% annually. So you have people that, I'm trying to remember which actress it is. There's an actress, like, I want to say 5-10 years ago, that sued the landlord that she has for her New York, and it's a swanky area of New York, apartment, because they wanted to raise her apartment's rent to $1,400 a month. The average apartment in that area is $10,000 a month. She sued. She wanted to get her apartment for $400-something a month. The government, after the suit, allowed her to have her apartment for $900 a month. This is a Hollywood A-lister that is paying $900 a month for their apartment smack dab in the middle of New York City. That is not someone who needs rent control. That is not someone who needs to have an apartment for less. That's someone who was able to get an apartment at the right time, and it was an apartment that she inherited. And when you look at the people who own the rent-controlled apartments, a lot of them are in the top couple percent of earners in New York. And there's actually been data analysis on this that backs up that claim. It isn't just anecdotal bits of bullshit.
And here we have a list from apartments.com.
Mm-hmm.
Studio apartment to 2-bedroom for $5,115 to $7,975.
Mm-hmm.
A month?
A month.
Wow. I don't
Fuck
even,
that noise.
I don't
Yep.
even make that much a month.
Yeah.
Um,
And the reason why places keep on jacking up the prices is because rent control in New York is, if you have a certain number of units within your property, then a given percent of them have to be given over as rent control. If those properties are falling below a certain rental threshold, there's also a chance that the city at some random point will just come to you and go, "Yeah, you know how you have a bunch of apartments that are $2,000? Yeah, they're all rent control now." Because it falls below a certain threshold, they're able to do that. If you make an apartment that is above that certain threshold, they can't just come to you and go, "Yeah, you know all these apartments that you currently have that you've been renting out normally? Yeah, they're now rent controlled."
Let's sort from lowest to highest. The lowest apartment on apartments.com is $1,050 for a 4-bedroom.
For funsies, let's compare zip code 73025.
All right, let's take a look. Ye ol' Edmund.
That 4-bed, 2-bath house looks not that bad in comparison.
That's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
I mean, still too much for me, but
So while we're apartment hunting, just off topic, did you guys see the deal people have been talking about on Twitter with Biden and his little cue card?
I don't believe I have.
I don't know if this was at an event today. I'm assuming it was, but he had a little list of what he was supposed to do, at this event, and like the third bullet point that has got it circled in this blown up image. It says you, and big, all letters capitalized. You take your seat. You and yours are big and bolded. It's like, what would he end up doing if you hadn't put that on the list of things for him to do at this event? Would he have just stood around awkwardly, like just flapping his hands like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights?
No, he's going to walk through the stage door like Bush.
Are
Sit
you
on
worried he's
someone's
going to
lap.
get confused and start playing like a round of Duck, Duck, Goose or musical chairs? Like, I'm going to take your seat now.
I can't sniff any of you guys.
Are you saying that's completely unlikely that it's off the table? Because I think after you said that, that sounds rather goddamn likely that that's exactly what would have happened.
Well, I mean, it just and also he's got the card backwards, so like it's you can see the list of like bullet points for him to do. It'd be like if he's playing poker and he had his whole cards flipped up backwards, so everyone at the table could see him but him.
Mm-hmm. Like he's the only one playing Indian poker.
oh, the I sent to Johnny a thread of people's responses to the SCOTUS opinion today.
Yeah, I had that.
That was some of that was amazing. It was people losing their minds about the gun decision, the gun control decision.
And to top it off, Keith Olbermann.
Yes.
Was he that crazy when he talked about baseball and shit? I don't.
No.
I've only ever seen Keith Olbermann do politics, and looking back on it now in its totality, yeah, pretty unhinged.
Well, I remember Keith Olbermann back in his MSNBC days.
Yeah.
Like in the Bush administration, and he was pretty bad back then, but I think Trump broke him.
He was like doing a resistance podcast, like pirate radio kind of show from his basement or whatever, or at least portraying it as such. Like I said, when I was watching MSNBC in my early 20s, he kind of seemed like he had a grip, but he was still bombastic and over the top. But again, looking back now, over a decade later, it's like, nah, he's always been an unhinged prick. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like...
He had a fucking segment called "The Worst Person in the World." It's like, really? You're gonna stand in judgment of people like this? Okay.
It's like you're making Bill Maher look reasonable. Sorry.
Yeah. You were saying, Johnny? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, there were a few of his... because I used to watch his show all the time. In fact, I had...
Olbermann or Maher?
Olbermann. In fact, I had my first major sleep-deprived hallucination to his show. And...
Is that related or just a...
I'm hoping this is like I was homesick and I'd already watched Price is Right and Jeopardy and everything.
No, actually, I was at work.
I'm assuming there's like a high fever involved in the story, right?
No. I had gone, I think it was Thursday night, because Friday on MSNBC was like prison.
Yeah, they do the
prison
locked
show.
up after, was it Maddow?
Yeah. And I was, this was just after Rocky was born, so I had already not had enough sleep. And so I was going, Monday through Friday, getting off of work at 6 a.m. If I was able to actually make it home by then. Getting home, sleeping for about 45 minutes. Getting up, watching toddlers. Making sure that they don't die. And then, squeaking in a nap here and there if the kids decided they were going to do it. And then waiting for their mother to get home about 5. Having to make dinner for that, for everyone else there. There was a 17-year-old in there too. And then, once I got dinner set and everything there, I would go in, and if I could get to sleep, because, by then you're just running on sheer adrenaline. If I could get to sleep, I'd sleep for about another 2 hours, and then wake up to the sound of screaming kids. And restart my day. I could go to work at 10 o'clock and stay there. And so I had been doing that for a while. And on a fateful Thursday, I was, watching. I don't even remember what it was. He was talking about Bush. And I'm sitting there folding laundry, and across the room, a friend of mine from that I know from high school just happens to be just sitting on the couch, just like, oh yeah, I totally I would totally disagree with this because it's some bullshit. No, 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 no. And I go, I think it was talking about implementation of the Patriot Act at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'd always moderately disagreed with the Patriot Act because it seemed a little too, you know, you're putting your head too far up other people's asses. And so she's like, no, I totally think the, you know, Patriot Act's a thing. And then to my right, a guy I probably met 2 or 3 times before then, had a counter argument for that. And so me and these 2 people are having this 3-way discussion about the Patriot Act. And I'm like, wait a minute. You guys don't belong here. If you guys are here when, you know, I'm not supposed to have visitors. If you guys are here when the quality assurance lady gets here, I'm going to get in trouble.
Please tell me they dove out a window.
No, they just disappeared.
That's disappointing. I wanted it to be that they just dove through your window.
And so I looked around and I'm just like, I'm putting in for some time off. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It sounds kind of like my yesterday.
And Addy said he believes. I guess this is talking about Keith. He's been fired numerous times. That's why he was talking politics instead of box scores.
well, he got fired from MSNBC because he made a donation that he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, but no, I was talking about like he used to be a sportscaster before he got into politics with MSNBC. Yeah, he worked for ESPN. I think he worked for them like a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Addy's saying Oberman. So, I mean, I never actually watched Keith Oberman doing like Sports Center or anything like that. That was before my consciousness, anyway. So I was just wondering, like, was he just bad at it, or you know, or is he just that much of a prick he decided to go talk politics after getting fired?
If it's before your time, it's way the fuck before mine.
Well, it's almost it's almost in my time period. I knew Keith Oberman before
MSNBC.
Yeah, he was on NBC.
Doing sports or politics there?
He did politics.
Oh.
He even, like in the very early 2000s, he even was called up to do a guest spot on Meet the Press.
That was when Tim Russert was still doing that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And Tim Russert was probably one of the best reporters.
I think he passed away when I was either in like junior high or high school, because I recall them like, you know, doing like in memoriams and whatnot. And then he had a kid working for MSNBC, if I'm not mistaken, Luke Russert. I could be wrong though.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, that's back from my MSNBC viewing days. Again, I haven't watched them in a good long while.
Well, it used to be in our house. It was when I was growing up. It was CNN, and then finally the other ones came in. But we only watched MSNBC because when I lived with my grandparents, because my grandma is, I don't want to say liberal, but she's extremely Democrat. And we did not have any, I honestly did not know about other opinions until I moved out.
I was the only one like in my house that took any interest in like current events, politics like that. When I was growing up, which is weird. Uh, Mom, she didn't even bother watching the news. She just thought it was all bad news. She's like, why bother? You know. And
Probably a somewhat healthy take on it.
yeah. I mean, looking back now, it's like absolutely, good deal. I mean, she could get duped from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, it's like out of sight, out of mind. I'm just gonna do what I need to do.
Yeah, if you're going to err in one of the directions, not looking enough is probably better than not looking way too much.
Yeah, and I was kind of the opposite. I mean, to this day, to a certain extent, I have a tendency to just go off doom scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
But the Doom has been so good in the last couple of years, though.
I think you and I have very, very different definitions of the word good.
Oh, this is like some of the
or at least
greatest-
applications of it.
This is some of the greatest Doom that I've seen since like 2016.
Again, I think we're using that word differently between the two of us.
And
I mean, I would say that this is quality, of high quality, but I wouldn't call it good.
I mean, I am really disappointed that they didn't do the Doomsday Clock like later in the year so we could get into the Ukrainian war. Because this,
You mean you're talking like the however many seconds to midnight?
yeah, because it was 100 seconds to midnight in January. I wonder what they would think of it right now, because I think we're probably like 4.
I haven't checked the Doomsday Clock in forever. Let me see here. I don't want the Wikipedia. Is it the bulletin.org Doomsday Clock?
Yeah.
Current time. Here we go. A bulletin of the atomic scientist at Doom's doorstep. It's 100 seconds to midnight.
Man, if a war doesn't shift it, how accurate is that?
I mean, it's not like it's a war
It's a
between
facetious
like
question because
two great powers.
Well, it's a war with a nuclear power versus a non-nuclear power backed by the majority of the nuclear powers.
Yeah, it's a nuclear power versus a non-nuclear proxy.
Yep, but that proxy is the part that normally drives it up, because that's why during the Cold War it was going so high, or going so close, because it was a shit ton of proxy wars, but it was proxy wars that people were worried were preludes to just direct wars.
I'm surprised that it's not closer with that going on top of unstable leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is that I don't think the people that are in that do that, the Doomsday Clock, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the type of people to think that Biden is an unstable leader.
You think they see him as a totally rational actor?
I think there's a lot of people out there that do.
It depends. I've met a lot of really level-headed scientists, and it tends to be the better the scientist, the more level-headed. But there's a fuck ton of people that are just completely possessed by ideology, which is why I've stressed many times the only scientific consensus that ever fucking matters is a begrudging one.
And you don't find 100 Seconds to Midnight begrudging?
I'm not sure how begrudging. Yeah.
I keep saying that to people because you hear about the scientific consensus in climate science, and I'm not going to go off and like, oh, climate change is a hoax and everything else, because I'm not. I have like 9 hours in meteorology, and I found climatology to be very boring.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hear, oh, like 97% of the climate scientists believe in this, it's like, well, it doesn't fucking matter, because the vast majority of doctors in the 1800s didn't believe in washing your hands after touching dead people.
I mean, didn't they like commit the guy that suggested washing your hands before going into surgery? Or am I
They
thinking of something else?
So, one of the first people that was really stressing the "no, you dirty bastards, let's clean up" was Liston, the guy of the particular
Liston knife?
surgical knife.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was
I've seen enough Jack the Ripper shit. I know what I'm talking about here.
he was the fastest amputator of the time, and probably still one of the fastest amputators to have ever lived.
I'm joking, of course. I've actually heard Sanguine say this before, and it just started clicking when he said Liston.
The fastest amputator is one weird flex, but I mean, it is pretty impressive.
Sanguine did make a compelling argument as to why you want that dude last time he spoke about it.
Well, I mean, yeah.
For those who don't know about Liston, Liston was a surgeon around the same time as Robert Knox of Burke and Hare fame, and it was around that early dawn of proper medical science time frame, where it was the Edinburgh School of Medicine was the cutting edge school of medicine in the entire world. Liston was this just absolute fucking monster of a man physically. I think he was like 6'6" or 6'8", some ridiculous height, and all of it fucking muscle. This man could amputate a leg in about 1.5 minutes. And by amputate a leg in 1.5 minutes, I mean go from the person has a leg, there's no incisions made yet, to the person is now missing everything of their leg below a certain point, and it's sutured shut in 1.5 minutes.
See, I think of like a cowboy doing calf roping, just,
Yeah, he has the Liston knife, which you brought up, was the knife that he designed for amputations. And it was a very particular designed knife. It went to a fairly sharp point and was double-edged. So it had an edge on either side. Most surgical knives have a single edge. And also the Liston knife was long. So when you think surgical knives, you're probably thinking a scalpel, right? So you're thinking...
I think of like a scalpel for making an incision, yes, but I'm really not all that familiar with the other implements that would be used to cut off somebody's extremities.
So a good chunk of surgical knives would be in that scalpel to a bit longer range. So you'd have like 1.5 inches to maybe like 3 inches would be a fairly standard surgical blade length. The Liston knife is like a good solid 18-ish inches. And it was designed so that Liston would be able to hold down his patient with one hand, stab the knife into the side of the leg above the bone, then just pull it down, cutting free a wedge of skin or wedge of flesh and muscle, cutting parallel to the bone, then jamming it on the other side, do the same thing. So he now had 2 flaps.
Before you
Then he
continue,
would-
Sanguine, I have a question.
Yep.
When did you say this time frame was again?
This was turn of the century before the previous century.
So what 19th going into 20th or 18th going into
Well,
19th?
Double check. I'll get the exact date of listed.
I'm just curious, like when that occurred and when they like discovered you could use opium.
You know,
He was the first surgeon to deal with anesthesia.
Oh, okay.
so that's
So
probably about
roughly the same time
1850.
period, just maybe a different drug.
So, no, at the point when he started surgery, the closest that they came to any sort of anesthesia was a single malt.
Oh, so when he started, you just like here's a shot of whiskey or
Here's a
beer?
shot of whiskey. Hopefully, it dulls the pain a bit.
And when did they like start working with anesthesia?
He was the first one to work with anesthesia.
Or was the shot of whiskey the anesthesia?
Oh no, he did the first surgery with ether.
Oh, okay.
So ether was the earliest anesthesia.
I'm gonna cut your leg off. Tell me, does this rag smell funny to you?
And
Yo-
well, there's a funny story behind his surgery with ether, and it was that he informed the man what was going to happen. The man agreed to the surgery. He needed to get the amputation. So he explained how the anesthesia was going to work. They put the man under with anesthesia. The man, from what he recollected, the mask was put on his face. Then he passed out for a second and woke up and immediately felt panicked, and he said that he withdraws his desire for surgery. He wants to keep the leg. He wants to see if there's any other way to deal with it. And apparently
And
when
Liston's
this
just
happened,
standing over him like, "Hey, look down real fast."
Liston went, it's a bit late for that, and held the guy's severed leg in front of him.
Oh man, see, if it was me, I'd be like, just go ahead and look down.
He's just the.
Like I wouldn't be like holding it up there like a fucking like a caught bass, like, hey, check this out.
Oh, Liston had
You gotta be cool about it,
ridiculous
man.
Liston had ridiculous showmanship about him. Apparently, according to pretty much all the records about him, when he would walk into the surgical theater, and the reason why it's called a surgical theater dates back to this time period, because
They
it
had,
was
like,
actually
doctors actually sitting and watching.
not just doctors. You could go to the local surgery and get a ticket to watch the surgery.
Can you still do that, or
There's very few areas that have a surgical theater like that anymore, and most of them are reserved to like med schools.
I was gonna say is like if you got places like that where it's open to the public anywhere in the world, that's a great way to like tag future serial killers.
Dude, see what you do.
Are you a
is-
med student? What are you doing here? Like, oh, it's
But
just
yeah.
Saturday and I had nothing better to do.
But yes, when he was doing this, he would walk into the surgical theater and he would be holding his knife above his head while calling to the crowd, "Time
Are you
me,
not
gentlemen,
entertained?"
Time me." And then he would go about his surgery and amputate whatever he was amputating. But
That
he was one of the first surgeons. At the start of his career, it was looked at as if how gore encrusted a surgeon's robe was a mark of a good surgeon. So the more gore encrusted the robe, the better the surgeon, because if someone was wearing a spotless robe, well, they've never performed a surgery in their life. Don't trust this man.
wait, they're not washing the blood and gore out of their robes?
No.
At early days of surgery, no. They would have that kept, and You know the barber pole,
The what?
the red and white barber shop pole.
Oh, barber pole. Okay.
Do you know the origin of that?
No, actually, I don't.
So, do you know whether doctors in England are called whether surgeons in England are called doctor? Are
Wait,
they
I'm sorry.
doctors? In the U.S., surgeons are doctors. In England, are surgeons doctors?
I'm going to assume by you asking it like that,
No.
the answer is no.
And that is the correct answer, because the people that you used to go to for surgery way back when were barbers. The origin of the barber shop pole was they would leave out to sun dry the bloody pus-soaked gauze that they had used to soak up various fluids from surgery.
Dude, I'm going to have just the worst kind of... Johnny Fortunate Son's going to start playing the next time I go to get a haircut.
But yeah,
My hair might end up reaching my ass before I go get another one.
so at the time it was uncommon for surgeons to wash their hands. It was uncommon for surgeons to, or pretty much unheard of for surgeons to wash their aprons. Many of them would only wash their instruments to keep rust off of them, but would do no more than that. So that came down mainly to they would wipe the blood off rather than actually cleaning it thoroughly. And that was just how it was done, because your blood and pus encrusted apron was the mark that you had done many, many surgeries. So you want the surgeon who's experienced. Also, this was at a time when if a surgeon saw something that they weren't familiar with, they would often pause the surgery, go research whatever they had just seen, and then come back to continue the surgery if their patient was still alive.
The fuck is that? Hey, time out, guys. I'm going to go Google something real fast.
Effectively.
You know, I've actually had a doctor do that to me in the ER. They Googled something.
Yeah.
I hope you mean they had like a nurse with a cell phone Googling or like a laptop. Like they weren't just sitting there like
But yeah,
typing away.
No, the doctor actually pulled out his phone and like Googled a medication that I was taking because he was unfamiliar with it.
Mm-hmm. Which can sometimes happen. There's a lot of different meds, and there's a lot of brand names to meds that you get very familiar with the generic form, but then company X or company Y comes out with this is like Redigan. Okay, Redigan is something that just came out last year. What the fuck is it? Oh, this company is calling acetaminophen Redigan. Why the fuck are they calling it Redigan? So you have weird shit like that where it's a company will start trying to market a name and you're going, okay, I know what the generic is. The fuck is this shit? But when you're looking at old school surgery, yeah, it would be hours long a good chunk of the time. So that was one of the reasons why Liston really focused on how long it took him to perform surgeries. He was doing it as a means to be kinder to his patients. And he would just absolutely chew out surgeons that had to go away and look up shit mid-surgery or would dilly-dally during the surgery. He ripped the shit out of them. He was also one of the first ones to say, no, clean your fucking robes, clean your fucking aprons, clean your instruments, wash your goddamn hands, and for his constantly going after various other surgeons. He was at one point blackballed from the Medical School of Edinburgh, and his response to that was he effectively went, you know what, fuck you guys, and started going to every patient that was turned away by the surgical college and figuring out why they were turned away. If they were turned away because their issue was too difficult for the surgical college to deal with, he would perform the surgery for them. So there was one guy who, I shit you not, had like a 40-pound testicular tumor.
It's a lot of balls.
And for those who, hopefully, pretty much everyone, but for those who don't know about testicular tumors and testicular cancers, cancers are able to make new blood vessels. Certain cancers are more likely to make more blood vessels. Testicular cancers, testicular tumors, are known for their insane ability to make new blood vessels. So new veins, new arteries, all that good shit. The main reason why the people were turned, or the reason why this guy was turned away, was because every surgeon went, this man is going to bleed to death if I even go near that cancer.
I mean, how horny was that guy that he was having that much blood flowing to his junk that it made his cancer grow? That's how that works, right, Sanguine?
No, that's not how it works.
I'm trying to lighten the mood. You're telling me about a 40-pound nut cancer.
The man had to carry his nut in a wheelbarrow.
You mean he didn't like use it like a bouncy ball like Randy Marsh?
Nope, carried it around in a wheelbarrow. And the cancer had ballooned up to the point where the tumor was trying to consume his leg as well as had consumed a portion of his penis.
Oh, how many disappointed chicks did that dude run into? It's like, hey, baby, is that a, you know, are you just happy to see me?
Is that a
no, that's a cancer.
Tumor in your pocket?
Yeah.
Liston agreed to perform the surgery, despite the high likelihood that the man would bleed to death. And because of Liston's ridiculous surgical skill and just absolutely insane speed, he was able to save the man's life and amputate the tumor without the man bleeding to death. It was ridiculous.
Was the penis okay, though? Like, did he manage to keep the...
I think he lost a portion of it because it was just so fucked at that point. But he kept most of his penis.
The interesting thing is that they just now started using medications to stop the vascular growth.
Anti-angiogenic.
Yes.
Or meds, yeah. And there's another med that has just come onto the market fairly recently.
Is that the one for the rectal cancer?
Yes, the colorectal cancer, where what it does is it increases the sensitivity of the immune system. And it does so to the degree that the immune system is then able to recognize that form of cancer as, wait, this isn't the right thing here. So it actually attacks the cancer.
This is the study that had the 18 out of 18 come back cancer-free, right?
Yep.
Now, am I mistaken, or is that like a good sign for people that don't already have like an autoimmune disorder?
It is
cancer.
It's a fantastic sign for people that don't have autoimmune. For those that have autoimmune and are prone to autoimmune, it's kind of like how vaccinations in general really goddamn amazing when it comes to dealing with shit. The MMR vaccination, fantastic. The number of children that it saves from having to suffer through measles, mumps, and rubella, ridiculous. The problem with the MMR vaccine, and with any vaccine, is if you're prone to autoimmune or you're suffering from autoimmune, then normally you are told you cannot get vaccinations.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering with this particular drug is, like, will it be able to expand it out to other cancers like leukemia or lymphoma or something like that?
Possibly. It depends on a number of factors, but it's possible that will be able to happen. Another thing that is really fucking cool that I've talked about on various shows before is, have you guys heard of HK cells?
I don't know off the top of my head. Go ahead and start explaining it, and maybe it'll jog something.
HK cells stands for hunter killer cells.
Okay, I have heard that before. Yeah.
And hunter killer cells are a specific type of immune cell. There's a number of different modified hunter killer cells that have been modified to go specifically after cancers. Because with hunter killer cells, the whole thing is that they go after a very specific target, and they've been able to modify some to go after very specific cancers, which is another really fucking cool treatment that has been developed, and there's more of those in the works. They just need to program the hunter killer cells to go after different cancers.
And that would be a safer, more effective alternative to, say, like current radiation or chemotherapy?
Oh, much safer. So when you're talking about current cancer treatments, the main one is, of course, chemo drug and radiation.
Which they have different cocktails of chemo, right?
Yep, they have different cocktails of chemo that range in how potent they are, and also the individual drugs within the chemo cocktails. But as a whole, what chemo drug does, chemo drug ends up targeting cells that replicate the fastest, because cancer cells tend to divide much faster than most other cells. I say than most other cells because there's two types of cells specifically that this does not hold true for. And if anyone can guess it, I'll be rather chuffed that you're able to. I'll give you one hint. Think of the two common issues with people that are on chemo drug.
Repeat the question one more time.
What are the two types of cells that replicate fast enough that they are at effectively the cancer level of replication?
The two types of cells that replicate fast enough that they're...
That'd probably in somewhere in the digestive system for one of them.
That's one of them. You got close enough. The stomach lining.
Stomach lining, there's acid in the stomach that...
Yep. When you think of people that are on chemo drug, a lot of them get nauseous very easily.
Would the other one be what, the liver?
No. So what's another thing that commonly happens with chemo drug? You get people that get nauseous a lot, and then...
Hair fall out?
Yes. Hair follicles.
Yeah.
Divide really quickly. So when you're on chemo drug, because your stomach lining divides very quickly, that gets fucked up by chemo drug. So you end up getting really nauseous for an extended period of time. It isn't just... A lot of meds will make you nauseous shortly after taking them. Chemo drug, nausea just becomes part of life. And the other thing is that because your hair follicles divide quickly, since chemo drug, it affects every cell, but it affects the cells that divide the most, the worst. It ends up killing off hair follicles, which is why you have people that go bald when they're on chemo drug. Go ahead.
I really feel like that this drug, that the one for the rectal cancer.
Colorectal?
Yeah. I have a problem with words.
Oh no,
Colorectal
I
is
think
a
it's
problem,
just.
or a word that most people have problems with.
I don't think that was a problem with words because I said rectal cancer. He corrected me too with the colorectal. It's just.
I just have a really. I've been recovering from I call it cat piss migraine all day.
Ooh. Sorry to hear that, man.
Because I was in a house that reeked of cat piss, and it caused me to get a migraine, and I've had it since about noon.
Oh, that's reeking of cat. Ugh. Like I've had cats and dogs all my life, and you never let a place get that bad to where it's just reeking of. Have some pride in yourself, my God. Or was this like a little old person who was having trouble getting around to cleaning?
No, these are just lazy fucks.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
But
I noticed the cat is suspiciously quiet.
She.
No, not that cat.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Chomp. Chomp just left the room, and then tripod's over there right now. Oh, you can't see her. I got all my camera equipment in the way.
Yeah, I was just poking fun at Johnny. That's all.
No, I'm still here.
But no,
A likely story.
what I was thinking is that you'll probably see that drug, that concept being taken into where they'll probably be able to select it for whatever cancer you have soon.
Well, I look forward to that day, and it can't come
Well,
soon enough.
If they're able to specify that one in that manner, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of an if when it comes to that particular drug, because, like I said, what it does is it sensitizes the immune system, and the immune system is able to pick up on the different enough cancer cell appearance that it then attacks it. So it would, if a cancer is more similar to a standard cell, some cancers look more like standard cells on one level than others. It would be more difficult to get it to go after more normal-looking cancers.
Well,
Which is where the hunter-killer and that type of stuff really comes in handy.
This would actually kind of link back to something I've talked about before on different streams, maybe one of Johnny's previous mini streams. Both your parents were Marines, right?
Yep.
Did you know?
Which is why I can never hear the word buddy without immediately thinking friends are friends and pals are pals, but buddies sleep together.
I like how you take the long way around of saying buddy fucker. So.
Yep.
But no, like I was gonna ask, since both your parents were in the Corps, and you grew up around that, did you know that May is Military Appreciation Month?
I did not.
Even fucking Sanguine didn't know. Oh my God.
Yeah, when you told me that it was, I went, "Oh shit, really?" And yeah, I had no clue.
See, I'd forgotten that I'd asked you. I asked Assassin, I asked Cryptic. I was talking to the Useless Cook earlier tonight over on my channel for a change, and he had been in the Army. He didn't even know. It was like, yeah, I just found out last fucking month. This has been a thing supposedly for 23 years. Clinton signed it into being 99. Like I heard more about May being Asian American Heritage Month than I have it being Military Appreciation Month. And I wanted to tie that into the cancer drug. That's probably one of the best pieces of news in my lifetime, right? We got a drug that cured 100% of the people afflicted with this type of cancer that we gave it to. That should be way bigger news. The people that came up with this drug, they should be on fucking podcasts. They should be talking to Joe Rogan and shit, explaining how they came about this revelation, and possibly inspiring others to pick it up and carry it on to these other types of cancers to be cured.
Yeah,
and
especially
it was in and out of the news cycle like a fart in the fucking wind.
especially since I've talked about this before. There's a lot of different bits of bullshit woo med where they go, well, this cured cancer in a petri dish. This one actually cured cancer in patients.
In people. Yeah. The ultimate goal here.
Yeah, that is the important part. And it pisses me off every time that I hear someone say, well, we've had a cure for cancer. This was able to cure cancer in a petri dish. And I'm going, everything cures cancer in a petri dish if the dose is right. For fuck's sake, you can cure cancer in a petri dish with a 9mm. That doesn't mean that the latest and greatest oncomed is you go into the children's leukemia ward and just shoot all of the cancer out of them.
The thing is am I the only one that gets really, really pissed off when you hear people talk about, it's like, yeah, we would have a cure for cancer, but it's not profitable, so I might...
We would have a cure for cancer, but they're too worried about, making your hair grow and your dick hard. It's like, I'm pretty sure you can multitask.
No, and we do all the fucking time. There's certain meds that I will agree we would probably have if they were more marketable. And unfortunately, one of the meds did become a thing because someone was able to come up with a way of marketing it. It was really fucking illegal, and what they did was goddamn criminal, and it's good that they got arrested for it. But the only reason why the med was able to be available for people that actually fucking needed it was because of those shitty business practices. So there are some things like that. And the med that I'm referring to is there's a...
Are you talking about Shkreli?
No, I'm talking about the really fast-acting oral fentanyl solution.
Oh.
Because it was... Do you remember the big farm company where the CEO got arrested and tried for unlawful business practices about, I want to say, 6-7 years ago?
Honestly, the only person I know of that's been, dealing in any kind of pharmaceuticals was that Martin Shkreli guy. That's the only story I can recall. And that was what? Less than 5 years ago at this point. He's already out of prison.
I'm quickly double checking. I think the one that I'm thinking of.
I didn't know anything about a fast acting fentanyl solution.
Yeah, there's a ridiculously fast acting fentanyl solution that was meant as a means of treating breakthrough pain. Are you guys familiar with the term breakthrough pain at all?
Let's say I'm not.
Okay, so breakthrough pain is a phenomenon that you see in a lot of terminal cancer patients.
Okay, so like they're already in a bunch of pain, and all of a sudden, it spikes. Is this like kind of...
So they're in chronic pain due to the advanced
state of the cancer
disease.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
the advanced state of their disease, and it is medicine that, or it is pain so bad that giving them high dose of morphine barely even takes the edge off.
Mm.
It is ridiculously high levels of pain. And these are people that they're going to die. Like I said, these are terminal cancer patients. They are going to die. So if something's addictive, doesn't really fucking matter. This patient is going to die. What ends up becoming a thing is figuring out if you can allow them to die as painlessly as they can. That's where this one med came in. It was a oral fentanyl drug. It was called Subsys.
Yeah, I had not heard of this at all.
And yep, so it was an oral fentanyl spray. So think kind of like a nose spray.
Gotcha.
Very similar looking thing. Only the vials that were sold with the spray thing for the oral spray were a single dose vial.
So you got one pop in it.
Yep, you have one pop.
Did you spray it like
And-
under the tongue or something?
Yep, so what you did was it had this, again, kind of like the similar shape to the nose spray, only it was a stubbier bit rather than going up your nose. You would stick your tongue to the roof of your mouth, stick that nozzle into your mouth, and then squeeze, and it would spray onto the underside of your tongue. And then it would, within just a couple seconds of hitting the underside of your tongue, it would hit your system, and your pain would completely die out.
Now, does this work?
It worked insanely well.
Okay, so what did the you say this was CEO that got busted?
The CEO, the entire sales team, and several other executives.
Okay, what did they do now? That was criminal?
What they did was their marketing approach. So they started originally marketing it as what it should have only ever been marketed as, which is a breakthrough pain med. So in terminal cancer patients that are in constant pain, you give them this, it's able to take out that pain, and then you can step up the doses as their disease continues to progress, because the pain will just continue to build until they die. So you can give them this med, you can work them up through the doses as needed, and it's fantastic for that. But that has a very small market share. So what they did was, you know how a lot of drug companies will have like speaking engagements for doctors?
Kind of a way to give them a kickback or something?
It's a way of getting their product's name out there more, and it is somewhat of a unofficial kickback, but it's not quite that. With Subsys, it was entirely that. And it was obvious that it was entirely that, to the point where they had a spreadsheet of how much money they had spent on getting these doctors to speaking events. That many of these speaking events, there were no audience members at these speaking events. And how much that doctor had prescribed Subsys. They had Excel sheets of cost to income.
So the more they sold that drug, the more they got in kickbacks, the more their palms got greased, or what?
The more they got paid, if they noticed that someone had a low return rate, they would just drop taking that person to speaking engagements, taking that person to various things, and having these special arrangements for them. If the person was prescribing at a high level, they got more of these, which they would keep track of at what point getting more would result in an even higher rate of prescription.
Diminishing returns and whatnot.
Yep, they kept track of the exact inflection point over how much money they could give various doctors in order to get various doctors to prescribe their medicine more than it should have been prescribed.
I'm not surprised by this, but I am disgusted. So,
And
how did they get busted?
well, they got
Someone blow the
busted
whistle, or
because there was a number of very interesting situations that happened. There were a handful of Subsys-related ODs that popped up. And then it was a person had heard murmurings that this company had come out of nowhere. They looked into it, and yeah, the company just boomed once they had staffed their E-suite and their chief retail officers in a certain way. Or sales officers, rather, not retail officers, sales officers in a certain way. So they started looking into it more. As they looked into it more, they found out that they were doing really shady shit on the business end. So that investigation ended up getting published to a fair degree, not entirely, because after publishing part of it, that investigative journalist then reached out to the government and went, okay, I've been looking into this shit, and it's getting really fucking criminal. So the federal government started looking into it. As they started looking into it, they found even more shit on this. Then they were able to get a couple of the highly placed salespeople to turn state's evidence. And they did an entire RICO investigation on this company.
So how much time did these people end up getting collectively?
Let me look at what the...
Well, I guess I'd have to ask, like, how many people end up being charged and convicted, and then how much time they get collectively.
I'm quickly pulling it up. So is subsys...
Because, like I said, I'm not surprised by this behavior on their part. I am disgusted by it. Now, the reaction. Like, when was this anyway? How long ago was this?
Like I said, it was not long ago. Let me quickly pull this up. And so, a number of people were... A bunch of the doctors were charged with this.
They should have been, yeah, okay.
One of the doctors was sentenced to more than 17 years in prison.
How many bodies did he have on him, I wonder?
Let me quickly pull up that article.
I'm going to get you all kinds of sidetracked with these questions, Sanguine.
Yep, not a problem. This is a story that I brought up because it's one of those, what the fuck? So, yeah, there's...
Because if he's got skeletons, I don't know that 17 years would be enough.
So Subsys was the drug, and it was Insys was the company, and the founder of Insys was sadly only sentenced to 5.5 years.
How many people died
in prison?
And he got 5.5 years. What, Club Fed?
He got 5.5 years in prison. Then so that was John Kapoor. 6 other Insys executives also got charged. And employees also got charged in 2019. So just a couple years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
This was really
we did end up
recently.
having a pandemic, so I guess I
Yep.
can understand why I didn't hear about this one.
One of the guys who was one of the 2 main ones that turned state's evidence served 26 months. One of the other ones that turned state's evidence served 29. Oh, no,
So
sorry,
what?
not 29, served 30.
So like 2.5 years? And
The
other
second
got
one
just
served 2.5. The first one
two
served
and a couple months. 2 and some
2 and
change.
2 months, yep. And then
Okay, so
a
these
bunch
are
of
guys
other
that went
people.
state's evidence. I guess I could see giving them a lighter sentence, but
Yep.
like how many people end up dying because of this bullshit?
Quickly seeing if it gives the number dead in this story. But yeah, there were 13 medical professionals that were also charged, and many of them received jail sentences. And the company, like I said, they were keeping track of how much they were paying doctors and how much the doctors were prescribing the medicines. And they had a number of doctors that were earning $125,000 a year in honorariums. just honorariums, nothing else, just honorariums.
Remind me again what an honorarium is.
That's when you're paying them to be like speakers and shit like that.
Okay. So 6 figures just for, and I'm using bunny ears here. You can't see because no camera, but
Yep.
6 figures for speaking engagements.
Yes. And like I said, they kept the record of how much they were paying each doc versus how much every doc was prescribing their med, and they were rewarding their highest pushers. And it doesn't seem to have all the info on how many people died due to subsys.
Because see, like
that
something
one.
like this, I can understand having, you know, like sentencing guidelines. Like, you know, if you commit this crime, you should
Mhm.
get no more than this amount of time, no less than this. But when you're, you know, taking actions like these, you know, that are driven out of, you know, just naked greed and stuff like that.
And one of the other things that they were doing that also allowed them to just be nailed against the wall was they had a special part of the company that was facilitating getting insurance to pay for the medicine.
So they're defrauding insurance companies.
The thing is that they wouldn't lie, but they wouldn't tell the truth either. So
how
they would
you do that?
For instance, they would be asked if the patient was being prescribed a specific medicine for breakthrough pain, which is a medical term. Like I said, it's pain caused by late-stage cancer that is unable to be controlled with standard medicines. And rather than saying that yes or no, and in many cases it would have been no because the patients weren't getting it for that, they would instead say the medicine was designed in order to deal with late stage breakthrough pain, yes.
So they would just say, yes, we designed this for that purpose, not, yes, this is the reason why we're giving it to this person.
Yes. So they would give answers to different questions.
None of the insurance companies were like, yeah, that's not what we asked you.
It was done slyly enough. That was a fairly blunt example of it.
Oh, okay.
But it was done slyly enough that it sounded like they were answering the question. But when you really thought about what they were saying, it was just implied rather than them saying yes or no. Which meant that they weren't quite lying, but it was so clear that each of those answers was highly coached that, yeah, they were lying through their fucking teeth.
Like I said, you know, with something like this, and maybe even apply it out to, you know, other crimes where somebody ends up dying. It's like, I think you should have, you know, like say you murder somebody, or you know, like in this case, you know, you take all the victims that end up ODing because of their actions, and you just say, all right, what the in the United States the life expectancy is what, 78 years. This person died at 40, so that's 25 years plus the 38. You know, like there shouldn't be some 5-year slap on the wrist. No.
And the deaths related to this drug date back to at least 2016.
Like, yeah, they you know, and there shouldn't be some, you know, white collar, you know, club fed. It's like, no, you're going to federal pound me in the ass prison for the next, you know, 50, you know, 63 years, whatever, in that scenario.
Yep. And when I said that this is a company, or this med is a med that probably would not be on the market had they not done this ridiculously shady shit in its marketing. The reason why I said that is the company was about to go under originally, and that's when they started this fucked marketing and the patently illegal shit. The reason why it was going under is because the cost of production for the meds and for the sublingual applicators
More than they were getting for the amount of cancer patients they were actually...
was, yes, they weren't having a high enough flow through because they were at least originally, they were marketing it at a level that would have worked if they were dealing with a volume sales model, but they were going on so slim margins from the price of the med that they were going under, and they were going under quick. They switched to this model, and the company immediately became this massive success overnight, effectively.
So,
and
suppose they actually had a conscience and they didn't do this, and the company goes under. What would have happened to that drug then? Some other company
probably no one would have made it.
No one would have made it at all. Like nobody, like a successful company wouldn't be able to pick that up to cover.
There might have been someone that was willing to dump money into R&D to see if they could make it cheaper. But at the way that it was being produced, it did not make financial sense.
Well, no, I'm not saying necessarily that they would. You know, I guess I'm woefully inadequate in my knowledge of pharmaceuticals. Way that I guess I'm just wondering, like, would it not be feasible for another company to pick it up and, you know, at pennies on the dollar or whatever? Since that company.
Well, the thing is that it would be a massive loss leader.
Yeah.
Because, like, so you know the difference between why big box stores are able to sell shit for the price that they do versus mom and pop?
Chat, welcome to the segment I like to call Reasons Why Camel Doesn't Run His Own Business. So now you're saying big box stores and what?
Big box stores like the Walmarts, the Targets, the Kmart, shit like that, have always been able to sell their shit at a lower price than a mom and pop store, than just the little local store. There's two primary reasons for that.
I would guess because they're able to buy in higher volume and they're getting cheaper prices, for one.
They're buying in higher volume and they're getting it at cheaper prices, and also because they can sell at a lower profit margin
and still come out making money.
And still come out making a fuck ton of money. Because if you're selling to 1 billion people and you're making 1% profit, you're still making a fuck ton of profit at that point. Whereas if you're selling to 20 people and you're making 1%, that you're
not making. Yeah, I guess I was just thinking of it like listening to Monkey talking about working at Walmart. How, you know, you had all these other things that, you know, had pretty slim margins, but they were able to make it up with clothing markups. Yeah. I guess I was just looking at it that way, like that. Yeah, you're not going to make a ton of money off that, but if you've got a successful drug, maybe, you know, a pain medicine that you can use for, you know, a larger group of people that you're more successful with, maybe you could use some of the profit from that for the R&D.
But the thing, yeah, you would be able to.
I'm oversimplifying it, of course, because
you would be able to use profit from that for the R&D. But the reason why, like, Walmart's able to do that, where it has loss leaders in some sections, but then it has
it's making up for it in others, yeah,
is because it is one store, and someone will walk in going, "I need lettuce, I need meat
I need this,
for tonight's
this and that,
dinner,
yeah.
I need that," and then they'll get in there and they'll go, "Oh shit, yeah, I tore my shirt, might as well buy it while I'm here." So they have people come in the door, and because they're there, they will buy the things that have the higher profit margins. So they get people in with low profit margin items. They then make sales on higher profit margin items. Whereas when you're talking about
pharmaceuticals, it's not going to be that simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like someone's going to come in for acetaminophen and go, well, while I'm ordering
While I'm here, let's pick up some
acetaminophen from your
morphine.
company, I might as well order some fentanyl from your company as well. That doesn't happen. So you have that when it comes to
Retail
in-person
goods, but not.
In retail, you'll have that because you'll see that on Amazon as well. Everyone goes to Amazon to buy shit. There are certain items on Amazon that I'm willing to bet Amazon makes almost no fucking money on. But they sell those, and at the same time that someone's about to check out with those items in their cart, they're going, I kind of need this as well, and they'll slap that in their cart.
Hey, by the way, other users that bought this also, bought X, also bought Y.
Well,
Exactly.
One of the things that comes up in the appliance, I work for a Ma and Pa appliance business.
Yep.
They sell appliances, and you would think, how would they stay open in the world that has Best Buy, Home Depot, Lowe's, all these other big companies out there selling the appliances?
Comes down to customer service normally.
Well, yeah, we got, number one, we got really good customer service, but the other thing is, all of these little mom and pop stores are members of buying groups. So instead of like us buying from Whirlpool directly, we buy through a buying group along with a dozen other companies.
Yeah, same thing with the battery shop I worked at. The owner, he had like 2 locations, but he was a part of a group here in Oklahoma that was buying up, boat batteries, car batteries, on down.
And that's something that arose due to the big box stores. Because that wasn't really as much a thing pre-big box store. Because if you did that, then you would be teaming up with your competitor in order to buy things at a lower price, but it doesn't give you an edge over your competitor, it doesn't give your competitor an edge over you, so both of you would go, why the fuck would I do that? I'll just negotiate it myself, and yeah, I won't get the same price as my competitor necessarily, we might end up with the same price, but there's a chance that I'll be able to undercut him by at least a couple cents to the dollar.
Well, there's a few little tricks that we pull on it. Number one, they're basically a part of a cartel. Yep. I mean, I don't want to put it that way, but it sounds like it when he explained it out there. Because a lot of them, they all know each other and they're all friends with each other. Because I know the people down the street and everything else. We compete with each other, but what it does is our store will focus on one set of brands and we'd sell others, and then another company would sell the others, and then they would focus on a different set of brands that we would.
You would have a handful of, but they would have every type, and the ones that you have every type, they would have a handful. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's more after the big brands or big box stores came in, because that's when when smaller companies really started kind of going, okay, we've been competing for years. We know each other. We both call each other assholes. We both know this. We'll go to the same barbecue. It's perfectly fine. We get over this shit. These motherfuckers came in with their big box store and they're putting us out of business. Fuck them. You and I team up and we fuck them. Agreed?
And break.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of that came in, because when you notice that big box stores first, when they popped up, absolutely slaughtered the small town stores, absolutely slaughtered the ma and pa, the single location stores. And then after a period of time, the single location stores started kind of holding their own. And it's when you saw them start to kind of hold their own that when you look behind the scenes, there is kind of that a shit ton of small stores get together and go, okay, do we just want to buy shit together and then sell it independently? It makes it a bit harder for us to compete with each other, but we aren't really having to compete with each other anymore. We're having to compete with those fucking assholes.
Well, the other thing is that sometimes when I worked for another small retailer, we would actually take our truck and go to the other guy, the competitor, and like, hey, we'll trade Amana washers for your Maytag.
Yep.
And we'd unload and then reload and then go back.
Yep.
And we'd get price sheets from the buying group that would be the minimal advertised price.
Yep.
Which would be the cheapest we could advertise it for.
Mm-hmm.
Not what we could sell it for, but what we could put in the advertisements for.
Yep.
And
like I said, the main areas that mom and pa's used to be able to compete was the quality of service. You could get far more personable, far better knowledge of your clientele as a mom and pa. And then, yeah, what they started doing was they started having these buying groups in order to close the advantage of big boxes, which was they buy and sell in such fucking ridiculous volume that they're able to go for a small margin but large sale quantity, which ends up being a winning approach if you do it correctly, which was outside of the scope of any individual mom and pop. But then when they started doing buying groups, and they could get a bit of that going, but then also they would focus on their actual customer service angle and being the small town company. So yeah, you knew Bob's hardware store. You talked to Bob. If you had any problem, you could go see Bob. Bob would know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, I work at a company. I grew up working for one of those, and I work for another one now.
Yep.
But I've also worked for the big companies, a big corporation, and that's the other thing that makes the mom and pop stores a little bit more competitive, is they can build a loyalty amongst the employees.
Yep.
Because I don't have to deal with corporate bullshit. I don't have to deal with sensitivity training or diversity training. I don't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. Their approach is, you're not a racist, are you? No, sir. Okay, welcome aboard. Versus, now, you might be a racist if you think that it's a racist idea that black people are inferior, so we need to have a lower standard for them. If you don't agree with that, then you're a racist. What the fuck?
And a lot of times it isn't even, are you a racist? No, it's like, if you're a racist, keep your mouth shut in a customer's house.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting to the 2-hour mark. I am going to say, I'm going to call it there because I'm starting to fade. I don't know about you guys.
Not a problem.
But
we're getting there, yeah.
Go with parting thoughts. Sanguine?
I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you.
And Travis?
Next, Camel. I'll think of something.
I will go with one that I've used before. I haven't used in a while. I'm tired of following my dreams. I'm just going to ask where they're going and hook up with them later.
When in doubt, just keep quiet. I don't know, but that's actually pretty good.
that goes with the it's better to be thought of as a fool than open your mouth and remove all
Remove
doubt.
all doubt. See, I'm starting to get a little loopy because when he said, that first part, I started thinking of like Ted Nugent. And when in doubt, I whip it out. Got me a rock and roll band. It's a free for all.
Nice.
I will go with a Carlin quote here. Frisbeegitarianism is the belief that when you die, your soul goes up to the roof and gets stuck.
Nice.
And with that, the zoo is closed. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night, all.
Bye, everybody.